right, so many months have passed since the original Mitchell is Doll's father theory blew up, and a lot has happened since. A surprisingly large number of people agreed with the video. The thumbnail alone became a pretty big meme within the murder drones community, and has probably helped with a lot of fan art being made of the ship referred to by many as Silent Mask. Despite episode 8 being out for quite some time now, we were unfortunate to see Mitchell did not make a return. However, in contrast, I have been reassessing past episodes as surprisingly more evidence suggesting not only that Doll is related to intern Mitchell, but is also half human on a biological level. Yes, really. If you feel lost on what I'm saying, go watch my first video and then come back here later. Starting off with episode 7. To common counter-arguments critics of the theory pose at first, Mitchell's body is allegedly the skeleton Uzi took the lantern from in the cave. This is easily disproven as Mitchell's helmet already has a light for illumination, and as we see with Dr. Ridley, not every suit has one of these built in, requiring a lantern to be held. Second, was that as Yeva shaked off Mitchell's hand during the hand-holding scene. This must have meant she was not interested in him at all. However, when slowing down the footage, you can actually notice it's only when Yeva reads the name tag of Dr. Chambers, remember that name for later, she rejects the sign of affection. Only when Mitchell speaks inside the cathedral that Yeva realizes it's him inside that particular suit, and is visibly shown worried. Whatever happened during the Solver experiments, Mitchy boy over here isn't responsible for however Chambers treated our favorite Russian toaster to get such a reaction. When Yeva saves Mitchell from certain death, she is actually shown briefly smiling. This wouldn't make sense if she was just excited to see Nori, as she was still possessed and unable to reciprocate her emotions. She frowns later when Mitchell is about to make it to the exit, but here's the catch. This is because Yeva was pregnant with Doll during the Copper-9's implosion. If we rewind a little further back, a line said by Solver, while initially innocuous, actually holds a lot of weight to the ship's canonicity once reframed with our current knowledge.
Thanks for the new host, intern.
We know from the photograph in Dead End, Absolute Solver was running through Nori's body before the cathedral incident. Nori's infection was not new, and it could have very well took control of her body at any time. As an intern, it would have been very unlikely he was responsible for administering this dangerous virus into worker drones per his work duties. This line of dialogue more likely means that Solver knew Doll wasn't patchable while still a developing baby. I'll go as far as saying that Solver purposely swapped around Chambers and Mitchell's uniforms just so she could address this to him personally before killing him. This won't be the first time we'd see Solver playing with its prey for sadistic pleasure, as that's literally why Sinessa had a big dramatic battle with Uzi and gang in the finale instead of going through with her plans right there and then. With that being said, this would likely erase the possibility of Mitchell transferring his mind into a drone body, as then it would make more sense for him to just create a child with Yeva in the more traditional method involving the sharing of data in an untrained neural network. So take that as you will. Now I've got to return to something I've brought up in last video but didn't really investigate as much. At the end of my first theory, I suggest that Uzi may also be a half-human hybrid, and that Nori also had a human love interest in a similar situation to Yeva and Mitchell's bond. However, I've come to realize what really happened was actually a lot more tragic. It was first a joke and he put what in Yeva too, but I am now certain. Dr. Chambers is Uzi's biological father. When Nori briefly reunites with Khan, she is shown to still genuinely love him after all this time, showing she didn't put on a face to end when talking about him in private. Yet, from what we know, this mystifying Chambers character must have very well worked with her as a test subject back when she was still captive by J.C. Jensen. Yeva's disgust on seeing the name tag could be based on that Chambers didn't love Nori as herself, but the Solver that would control her. Solver is a sadist, and the experiments of what could be assumed to be hundreds of worker drones that it must have been through in order to study it would have caused immense amounts of suffering. It would absolutely love a man who had no moral compass, and shown by Sin's attachment to En calling him her big brother. If it can feel familiar love, it should be able to feel romantic love. Nori absolutely hated Dr. Chambers with every fiber of her body, but Solver didn't. If the deranged scientist was present at the time of Copper-9's implosion, he would have been there to put on his own protective suit, because you see, Solver evacuated him from the planet so he wouldn't die in the explosion. Now, why in the big fiery pit Satan and people who put toilet roll on the holster backwards live in wood chambers and this genocidal AI wish to have a child together? Well, it's simple, and it's been in front of us the whole time without us even aware. In the end credits to the finale, we get a glimpse of a black shadowy figure with an eerie grin, speculated by most people in the community to be Doll. Well, that's simply because they're right. This, my friend, is the Hybrid's Ghast. Solver's quote-unquote failure to destroy Copper 9 at the cathedral was planned by her to end that way the whole time, in an elaborate game of 4D chess to get Nori and Yeva up to the planet to raise their children till they were old enough to gain humanoid form. Only so they would witness the genocide of the workers by the disassembly drones. From the beginning it was planned for Doll and Uzi to suffer much as possible. As a result of their part human, part machine physiology, their trauma would allow them to persist after death, becoming a weapon of mass destruction. Mitchell was allowed to have a child with Yeva, because in case Uzi didn't give Chambers and Solver their desired outcome, they would also have a second subject they could fall back on. And it worked for them, because unlike Uzi who stuck to those she trusted and continued to do the right thing, Doll let her own mind unravel and be consumed with grief. If we are to ever get a Murder Drone Season 2, Dr. Chambers will return to Copper 9, not only to retrieve his wife Solver, but an attempt to control the Hybrid's Ghast and destroy the universe. Who knows, perhaps a certain intern will make a comeback as an ally to Team Uzi. Thank you for listening to the second part to this schizo fan theory that'll most likely turn out to be completely wrong solely on the basis of the absurdity of its premise. If I make a fourth put what in Yeva, it'll return to the goofy shitpost format and be its finale. See you next time and remember.
You put what in your
Wait, what did